MetaStand. Understanding Medicine.
Professor Azizur Rahman here, and this is the third in the series of lectures on common anemias. And today we're going to discuss some differential diagnosis of common anemias, but let me emphasize this lecture will be focused on the initial workup, and we will take up these anemias separately also later. But let me first explain the common basic approach to these common anemias and how we built up differential diagnosis. Now, if you remember, in the first lecture, we finished at this level based on CBC, MCV, MCH, and MCHC. We should be able to come up with one of the three possibilities. Either patient is hypochromic microcytic anemia, or patient may have macrocytic anemia, or patient may have normochromic normocytic anemia. So we will take up all these one by one, but we will restrict to the very basic concept because the separate condition will be discussed later. Differential diagnosis of hypochromic microcytic anemia, which is the commonest type. The diagnosis by default in these cases should be iron deficiency. One might not go for iron study if the cause is very obvious, and one example I always give is menorrhagia. If it is menorrhagia and you have hypochromic microcytic picture, otherwise peripheral smear is normal, I think you can have very safe assumption that this patient has iron deficiency. You just simply replace iron and the problem will be corrected. But in difficult cases or wherever you feel necessary, you might go for iron studies. And iron studies consist of ferritin, serum iron, total iron binding capacity, transferrin saturation. So these may be needed. And ultimate confirmatory test of iron deficiency anemia is actually absence of stainable iron in the bone marrow, which is mostly not done for this purpose because diagnosis is usually obvious before, without bone marrow examination. But theoretically speaking, all the RBCs, all the iron studies have limitation. The only definite test is absence of stainable iron in the bone marrow. The theory is that you must deplete all your iron reserves before you develop anemia. So absence of iron in the bone marrow would mean that all iron stores are actually depleted. If iron studies show that iron is low, then it would mean iron deficiency anemia, and you may start replacing with iron, or you may, if there is any clue or if the cause is not obvious, find and treat the cause. This is very important, especially in elderly people where there is a possibility of malignancy in the gut. Second is if you have hypochromic microcytic picture, and if you remember my earlier lecture, there are only two main possibilities. One is the iron deficiency. If there is no iron deficiency, iron indices are normal or high, it would suggest either chronic disease that can be ruled out on history alone. If somebody has some chronic disease like chronic liver disease, some chronic inflammatory disease, systemic lupus erythematosus, or some autoimmune disease disorder, then of course you can consider that also. But mostly these patients would probably be cases of thalassemia, and the test for thalassemia is hemoglobin electrophoresis. We are going to restrict our discussion here to very basic level because we will have a separate lecture on thalassemia also. So in hemoglobin electrophoresis, we actually measure hemoglobin A2 and hemoglobin F. If they're high, of course we measure hemoglobin A also, but hemoglobin A2 and hemoglobin F, if they are high, this would suggest beta thalassemia, right? And if this is normal, this would suggest alpha thalassemia. In alpha thalassemia, because alpha thalassemia affects alpha chain, and alpha chain is absolutely indispensable. Alpha chain cannot be replaced by another chain. So electrophoresis will not show any excess of hemoglobin A2 and F. So assuming that you have ruled out iron deficiency before you go for electrophoresis, so you have ruled out one possibility here, the other possibility here, then I think by the process of exclusion you may say this patient has got alpha thalassemia, although some specific nucleic acid and genetic testing is available, not in our country, but that is how we make a diagnosis of alpha thalassemia formally. So this slide gives you an approach to hypochromic microcytic anemia. Now these are the tests. Another way of, I think this is kind of revision, and let's do some exercise. Although this is a recorded video, you cannot actually participate in interaction, but just pretend that you are actually participating. What do you think hemoglobin and hematocrit would be? It would obviously be reduced, because that is why it is anemia. Then what do you think in iron deficiency anemia? What do you think, what would happen to MCV, MCH and MCHC? They are all reduced because this is hypochromic microcytic anemia. And if you measure ferritin, ferritin is protein which is made by the liver, and it reflects our total body iron reserves. And I explained to you earlier that you need to deplete all your body iron reserves before you can develop anemia. But the problem with ferritin is that it has got, number one, very broad range of normal value, and number two, it is an acute inflammatory reactant. That means whenever there is acute inflammation in the body, acute sepsis, some kind of infection, ferritin may be elevated. So if this test is done during some acute febrile state, acute inflammatory state, it might be actually normal because it is elevated due to that condition. Originally it was reduced, but because of this acute inflammatory state, ferritin may be elevated. So whenever you interpret ferritin, you may account for this acute inflammatory state. But assuming this patient has got just chronic iron deficiency anemia, does not have any acute inflammatory state, what do you think will happen to ferritin? It will be reduced. Iron, of course, will be reduced. The problem with the iron is that if somebody has already started taking iron, he or she would still have anemia, he or she still would have hypochromic microcytic anemia picture, but iron level may be already normalized. So I think consider that when you study iron value, but it would be reduced. TIBC or transferrin saturation, they actually, whenever there is iron deficiency, there is increased production of these proteins, and transferrin saturation will be reduced, but total iron binding capacity will be increased. As I said earlier, we normally do not go for bone marrow if it appears to be simple hypochromic microcytic anemia, but if we do go for bone marrow, it will indicate absent iron. So that is considered to be 100% definite evidence of chronic iron deficiency anemia. Retic count, if you do, it would be reduced or normal at least, because retic count indicates the number of RBCs made on that day. Since the overall bone marrow activity is reduced in iron deficiency, so retic count may be low or normal, but it will certainly not be increased in simple chronic iron deficiency. So these are the tests which we normally do in iron deficiency anemia. Now let's do the exercise on sideroblastic anemia. What is sideroblastic anemia? It is a condition where the picture is that of iron deficiency, but iron is not actually deficient. Why? Because iron is not metabolized. It is not used for hemoglobin synthesis. Sideroblastic anemia may be actually a manifestation of some other underlying disease, But here we will just discuss this part, the picture of sideroblastic anemia. Relatively quickly, hemoglobin hematocrit will be reduced, MCV, MCH, MCHC will be reduced because actually RBCs have the effect of iron deficiency. The picture will be exactly that of iron deficiency. Ferritin level may be high because if somebody is taking normal amount of iron in food and if that iron is not being utilized for the formation of RBCs, that might actually accumulate in the body. So ferritin may be increased, iron may be increased, and TIBC may be normal. And bone marrow, when you go for bone marrow, there would be presence of these ring sideroblasts. These are the cells which are loaded with extra amount of iron. There is a special staining character. Of course, that is not my area of expertise, but there are some ring sideroblasts. That means there's some cells which have extra iron present in the form of rings. So if they are present, they would indicate sideroblastic anemia. A Rete count will again be low, just like we have in iron deficiency anemia. So this is sideroblastic anemia, something which initially may mimic iron deficiency anemia, but if you go for iron study, you actually know that iron is in excess. Now, investigation of thalassemia. Thalassemia is again will produce hypochromic microcytic picture. Today we are discussing the differential diagnosis of hypochromic microcytic anemias. At least at this stage, we will move on to other types also. First, I think same hemoglobin hematocrit will be reduced, MCV, MCHC, MCH would be reduced. Peripheral severe may show target cells and basophilic stippling. Now these are the signs of thalassemia. Presence of target cells, these are RBCs, but with the central halo, and then there is a red spot in the center, just like a target. And these, the presence of target cells in increased number would suggest thalassemia. Basophilic stippling is also another sign of thalassemia. Ferritin and iron will be normal or may be high. If these patients are having, there are several reasons for them to have high iron. One is that they are being prescribed iron. Assuming that they have iron deficiency anemia, without going into the detail, these people may be prescribed iron, or they may be taking iron on their own. Second reason is that if their intake of iron is normal, but they are not using iron in the body, that will accumulate. So that will also lead to increased ferritin and iron values. Third possibility is because these patients with thalassemia, they also have increased red cell destruction. Their RBC span is reduced. So iron is released in greater quantities from the hemolysis. So that is another reason. So many patients would have increased iron level in many patients with thalassemia. But let me emphasize this point, and I've seen many times in my experience, there are people who with thalassemia have additional iron deficiency also. Because iron deficiency is very common, and having thalassemia does not give you any protection against this common condition. So it is very much possible that somebody has thalassemia trait but also has iron deficiency anemia. So these patients would of course benefit from iron supplements. If you do hemoglobin electrophoresis in beta thalassemia, there would be increase in hemoglobin F and hemoglobin A2, but in alpha thalassemia that would be normal. I explained to you earlier that alpha thalassemia affects alpha chain, and alpha chain cannot be substituted by another chain, so hemoglobin electrophoresis will be normal. But in beta thalassemia, when beta chain is reduced, beta chain may be replaced with gamma chain or delta chain, resulting in hemoglobin F and hemoglobin A2, so these values will be increased. Bone marrow will be hypercellular because bone marrow is trying to make more and more RBCs. A rete count may also be increased because of some hemolysis going on, but it may not be very high. Just some increase in rete count is a feature of thalassemia. So this is about thalassemia. Next, move on to the next picture. And the macrocytic. So we have so far discussed hypochromic microcytic. We have covered three conditions. One is iron deficiency, the other is sideroblastic anemia, the third one was thalassemia. So these three conditions we have covered. Now we are going to take up this macrocytic. If the initial CBC shows macrocytosis, then we have to do these tests. Hemoglobin hematocrit will be reduced. MCV is increased. MCV is mean corpuscular volume is increased. Then MCH and MCHC may be normal. Vitamin B12 will be reduced if there is vitamin B12 deficiency. And folic acid will be reduced if there is folic acid deficiency. One can have deficiency of both also, but mostly it would be either vitamin B12 or folic acid deficiency. And there are some other causes of macrocytic anemia also, like hypothyroidism and some bone marrow disorders. Of course, they should also be considered. Rete count may be increased or may be normal. But one thing very important in vitamin B12 deficiency. So suppose somebody has vitamin B12 deficiency because his stomach is not absorbing vitamin B12. That patient has pernicious anemia or other gastric disorder. So because of non-availability of vitamin B12, bone marrow will be hyperplastic. There is no hemopoiesis because vitamin B12 is required for hemopoiesis. But you have baseline rete count. Once you replace vitamin B12 and you replace it parenterally, and if there is prompt rise after treatment, so starting rete count was like 1% and you gave 2 or 3 injections of vitamin B12, and on day 10 or 15, if the rete count has increased to 10%, that would mean that it was actually the deficiency of vitamin B12. Once vitamin B12 has been replaced, because bone marrow was already hypercellular, it was not making cells because of the deficiency of vitamin B12. And in the background of hypercellular bone marrow, once vitamin B12 is replaced in parenteral form, then there will be very, very prompt hemopoiesis that will result in increased rete count. So I think this is important. Now, bone marrow examination, if you do, and there would be megaloblastic picture. Macrocytosis refers to the peripheral blood, and megaloblastic picture refers to the bone marrow. And megaloblastic picture is not seen in all macrocytic cases, and megaloblastic picture is actually a feature of vitamin B12 and folic acid deficiency. If there is some other cause of macrocytic anemia, like I said, hypothyroidism and alcoholism, then these patients would have macrocytosis, but bone marrow will not show megaloblastic picture. Now, hemolytic anemia, we are just discussing basic approach. We will discuss these separate entities in separate lectures also. I think let me quickly expose these. The first one, haptoglobin. Haptoglobin is a protein which is produced by the liver. Now, what is the function of haptoglobin? It actually binds with hemoglobin, because freely circulating hemoglobin in the blood may be very toxic. So haptoglobin will bind with the free hemoglobin, and then this macromolecule will be taken up by the macrophages. So haptoglobin will be reduced. The reduced haptoglobin will be an indirect sign of hemolysis going on. So this is, I think, very important. LDH may be increased because LDH is present within the RBCs. Once RBCs are hemolyzed, LDH will be released. Bilirubin will be increased, particularly the unconjugated type. When RBCs are broken down, hemoglobin is released, and then that is converted into bilirubin, and this bilirubin is taken up by the liver. Then it is conjugated. So if there is too much hemolysis, liver may be okay, but if there is too much hemolysis, there is so much bilirubin produced by the hemolysis that is not being taken up by the liver. So unconjugated bilirubin will increase. The conjugated may also increase, but predominantly it would be the unconjugated bilirubin, also called indirect hyperbilirubinemia. Rete count will be increased. This is actually an important clue, the hemolysis. Whenever there is peripheral destruction of RBCs, there is increased bone marrow activity. Bone marrow is hypercellular. Bone marrow is trying to make more and more RBCs, and there will be increased reticulocyte count. Rete count is reticulocyte count. That will be increased, and there may be also polychromasia. Polychromasia means that even younger than reticulocyte cells are also present. In some cases, if there is massive hemolysis, especially the intravascular hemolysis, there may be presence of hemoglobin in the blood, and hemoglobin may be excreted in the urine, and bone marrow examination will show hyperplastic picture. I guess it was a little complex, but entire medicine is complex. We try to make it as simple as possible. So these are the reports, these are the abnormalities which you are likely to see in hemolytic anemias. Of course, this will open up another chapter, because hemolytic anemias may be due to many causes. These are just the basic tests in hemolytic anemia, and once we figure out that this patient has got hemolytic anemia, then further tests would be needed to determine the precise cause. And of course, we are going to have a separate lecture on hemolytic anemia. Now let's do this exercise. We are discussing the investigations of aplastic anemia. Some are very obvious, but the other would need some detailed discussion. Hemoglobin and hematocrit would be reduced. Of course, this is a case of anemia, and actually reduced to a very, very significant extent. HB may be 3, 4 or even less. MCV, MCH and MCHC, 3 indices. This is mean corpuscular volume, mean corpuscular hemoglobin, and mean corpuscular hemoglobin concentration. All will be normal. Now this is interesting. Although there is anemia, but all these 3 indices are normal, because although RBCs are fewer in number, but whatever RBCs this patient has, they are normal in morphology. They have normal amount of hemoglobin, they have normal size, and they have normal hemoglobin concentration. TLC, of course, what do you guess? TLC will be reduced, maybe very low. Normal TLC is 4 to 11. In these patients, depending upon the severity of disease, it may be 3, 4, or maybe 2, 2.5, even less than 2, like that. And platelets are also reduced, because this is actually a pancytopenia. TLC is reduced, platelets are reduced, and HB, and if you count RBC, they will also be reduced. In differential diagnosis, this point I have discussed earlier 2 times. Actually, there would be a reverse polys and lympho ratio. Normally polys are in excess, but in the DLC, in this case, lymphocyte will be more in number, in the percentage wise. Rete count would be low, because rete count reflects bone marrow activity. In this case, bone marrow activity is very, very low, and rete count will be low, although that may not be of diagnostic value. Of course, if this patient has high red count, that would suggest an alternate diagnosis. Perhaps something infiltrating into the bone marrow. In typical aplastic anemia, autoimmune in nature, reticulocyte count is reduced. And bone marrow examination is diagnostic. You will have the aplastic picture. As I just showed you, you would have bone marrow which does not have many cells. The peripheral smear, the CBC, so far we have been discussing CBC and some other tests, but let me emphasize the importance of actual inspection of peripheral smear by a human. It has got a lot of power. There are certain abnormalities which you can see only when you examine the peripheral smear, and they can give you an important diagnosis. Now, these are Heinz bodies. I have already explained to you, and these are present in some hemolytic anemias. And this is spherocytosis. The cells are small, and this is present. These are feature of hereditary spherocytosis. Then sickle cell anemia. These crystal-like, sickle-like cells are seen in and sickle cell anemia. Again, a very simple finding on examination of peripheral smear. Then reticulocyte counts. These are reticulocyte counts. These are reticulocytes. They are actually premature cells. Increased reticulocyte count would indicate more and more new cells are being made. That would imply that bone marrow is responding appropriately to increased peripheral blood loss. So indirectly, it would be taken a sign of hemolysis. Of course, it would also indicate external blood loss, but since external blood loss is otherwise obvious, so reticulocytosis is typically considered to be a feature of internal blood loss in the form of hemolysis. Now, this is another closer picture of reticulocyte. So these are some of the morphological abnormalities which you see in the peripheral smear. So that completes our third lecture. So this was on, we are discussing approach to anemias, and this was the third one. We have discussed is approach to various types. In this lecture, I covered various lab abnormalities in hypochromic microcytic anemias, macrocytic anemias, normochromic normocytic anemias, and I have indicated some routine tests for these conditions and some specialized tests, but we are going to discuss more details of these conditions and these tests in subsequent lectures. And remember, we are going to have some more lectures on anemias. Please join me to complete the module. This is Professor Azizur Rahman from Medistan. Thank you.